Hey, welcome back again today. I'm very, very excited. You know what I'm saying? Do a little dance, whatever. Yo, I'm going to do a little dance over here on Eurofast because I'm going to teach you some knowledge today. Today we'll be talking about the Axum Empire, the Ethiopian Empire of Axum. Where to start off at? So many nice things to say and lovely things to say about another African civilization, which I love the most. And today we're going to talk about the Axum Empire, so let's get into it. The Axum Empire was very much in power and very prominent from the year 100 to the year 900. Now, before that, there was a civilization that existed leading up to the pre-Axum Empire, or, the civilization, then the thoughts and notions of the Axum Empire, then the actual Axum Empire. So, I will definitely talk about them next time. I have to find out a lot more information on that civilization, which actually I didn't even know about, but now I do, so I definitely have to find information on that and share it with all my fellow African people around the world. So the Axum Empire from 100 to 900. So at the beginning of the Axum Empire ruled the Ethiopian area in what is now today, which used to be part of the Axum Empire, Djibouti and Eritrea. At the beginning of the Axum Empire was very, very known for their gold, their barley, wheat, their iron. So at that point, this already gave a stable ground for a good economical kingdom, as long as they, plan things out and went about things the right way and, made smart moves. So at the beginning, the Axum Empire actually ruled and conquered the Kushite Empire, which is the Nubians next door in Sudan. And the Axum Empire conquered the Kushite Empire and sort of absorbed it into the Axum Empire, as well as Lower Egypt, obviously all of Ethiopia, majority of Ethiopia, and then the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, were all conquered by the Axum and all were part of the Axum Empire. The Axum Empire was very known for building obelisk, and they have tall obelisks. And under the obelisk, they actually have tombs where they buried the kings and the queens, and also people, that were high up in the kingdom, and also citizens. So they also have granite statues that are all throughout the Axum Empire, with text, obviously, with different kind of conquest and history of the Axum Empire. And actually the biggest one known to man that's still standing is in Ethiopia for the whole world, the biggest man-made monument, other than the pyramids. But as far as something that is made out of granite, that is still there. The Axum Empire was very, very big on trading, and were actually, the Axumites were very conquering people, or I don't want to say conquering, but expansionists, So after they conquered majority of Ethiopia, then they turned their eyes onto the Kushite Empire in Sudan, the Nubians, and also Egypt and the Middle East, as far as conquering, and they conquered all of those places. And the Middle East, especially the Yemen area and the Saudi Arabia area, they actually, once they were conquered, they had to pay tithes to the Empire of Axum every month, every year, whatever it might have been, and the currency was gold or ivory or salt or whatever it might have been, which leads me to the next thing about the Axum Empire. The Axum Empire was very rich in salt, barley, like I said, gold and iron, and these things were being traded throughout the trading routes and trading posts that they acquired. So seeing that the Axum Empire had such good access to the Nile River and the Red Sea, their naval became one of the best at the time period, and one that was very feared. They had so many trade routes. They had trade routes all the way up through, and actually at one point they actually made a different trade route that they didn't use the Nile River, and it was actually supposed to be quicker to trading with the Egyptians and trading with people in the Middle Eastern part, sort of, more so near what is supposedly today Israel. But the when the Persian Empire had controlled all of that area. And the trading with the Aksum Empire was very interesting because, when you have an empire that has signs of other civilizations in their own empire, either that means two things: either that empire was conquered, or they were so rich, and that kingdom was so rich that they had enough means for their king, queens, people in their kingdom to travel and to become scholars and bring back gifts and different kind of materials and natural resources to the kingdom. So Axum was very well known for having trading posts throughout the whole Middle East, Africa, and throughout Asia. And throughout Asia, especially in India and China, there was lots of trading going on amongst the Ethiopian empire called Axum and the Indian empires and the other Asian empires. And there was a lot of trading of silk, and pottery and things of that nature, especially from Asia. Silk was a very big commodity. So Ethiopia, the empire Axum in Ethiopia would trade gold and salt, amongst other things, and barley for silk and things of that nature. So when you look at the Axum Empire, they actually have pottery and gold from Asia, from the Middle East, and from Rome as well. They actually have texts. Most of the times it's in 3 different languages, and one of them being, the Roman languages, because they were very, I don't want to say close-knit, but they did a lot of business with them, and Rome was not... Rome was one of the biggest civilizations at the time, right there, in those time periods, and Rome was sort of the one of the meccas of the world at that point, to where their currency and development of society and things like that were coming along were one of the developing societies that was very predominant in the world, as well as Axum and Persian Empire and empires of that nature. So when you go back to Ethiopia, you can definitely find different texts from different languages, as well as the indigenous Ethiopian languages, which shows that Axum and the kings of Axum traveled and wrote in different languages, just in case there were people that could only read this language, or people that could read that language, just to show their greatness and how powerful they were. As far as the Axum Empire, the Axum Empire was originally spoke a language called Ge'ez, and Ge'ez is a very ancient language in Ethiopia, and this is what the Axum Empire originally spoke, and this is what the Axum Empire was built on, Ge'ez. And a lot of their old texts is written in Ge'ez. And after that, the kings of Axum, one of the first couple kings of Axum, adopted the Christian religion and brought it back to Ethiopia. And after he adopted the Christian religion, he sort of spread the Christian religion, and that was okay for the time being, as far as economically, because the trading posts, a lot of them were either Christian or Muslim. But even if they were Muslim, the Axum Empire had control of them and their posts. So there was really never any. I wouldn't want to say there wasn't disagreement, but there was never any defiance in a way until Islam became more big and centralized in Ethiopia, because just off the simple respect that Ethiopia and the Axum Empire ruled Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and those places in the Middle East, and the Kushite Empire, the Nubians, and Upper Egypt. Maybe let's fast forward around to like the 700-800s. That's when the Islamic period started to spread wild and big in Ethiopia and parts of the Middle East that were we're going through revolutions through the religion and things of that nature. And this was said and is seen as the downfall of Axum Empire. And the Axum Empire actually was still a good empire at that point, but it was the beginning of the deterioration of all the lands that it had captured around it, as far as the Kushite Empire, but more so the Middle Eastern parts of the empire, of the Axum Empire. And after that, Aksum eventually fell through that, through different entities inside of Ethiopia, as far as people being Christian or Muslim, and the bickering, and just other little factions and people in the kingdom, and also from the how can I say this, the de-vegetation of the area. The area where Aksum's at right now in northern Ethiopia is a lot drier now than what it used to be during the Empire of the Aksum, where there was rivers and a lot of vegetation that was around that area. So supporting the kingdom was very, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was a lot easier than it would be today to support a kingdom in that area, or centered in that area. And also, the population of the kingdom got too big. So once it got too big, there was not enough food for the demand. And, during certain time periods and certain droughts, there would be a demand for food, and there was it's basically was scary for a lot of people that there was going to be famine. And so they would try to how can I say this? They would try to basically use the soil too quickly, too hastily, and the soil would basically spoil, and there would be no vegetation or any food that could be harvested from that soil, because it was being harvested too many times. The soil was being tainted, or was weakening, and the minerals in it wasn't as good as it used to be, because there were so many people that were demanding food, and such a big demand for food. So that is definitely a lot of the reasons that the Aksum Empire sort of dissolved in a way. But also the Aksum Empire is very known for their coins. They actually had currencies that were made out of silver that had engraved faces of kings and different people of the Aksum Empire in them. And the currency was actually used originally in the Aksum Empire, but eventually after the Aksum Empire and their naval dominance in the Red Sea and the trading posts and trading routes, the currency was used as far as Asia, so there was people in Asia and kingdoms in Asia that were using the Aksum currency, silver coins, in currency of that nature, because the Aksum Empire was such a ruling empire and such a rich empire at that point that using that currency was deemed as, something that was very valuable. That currency was looked at as being very valuable. So the Aksum Empire was a very, very beautiful empire, lasting for about, give or take, 900 years. I think, personally, myself, it was more so like 1,200 to 1,300 years. But, we could just leave it at 1,000 years. Let's meet in the middle. 1,000 years, the Aksum Empire. So I hope you learned a lot today about the Aksum Empire. The city of Aksum is still in northern Ethiopia. And as always, make sure you're looking into your culture, your history, and it's sort of funny in a way that I have to, and a lot of people have to go back and find their culture for their African history, but this is what I'm here for, and I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If there's anything you want me to do a video on, let me know. It doesn't have to be just history, it can be anything. It could be anything that has to do, or related to our people, whether it be love, culture, history, current events, whatever it might be. So as always, remember who you are, love who you are, and if you don't know who you are, go ask somebody that knows who they are, so they can tell you who you are. And then once you know who you are, maybe you start watching my videos a little bit more. So once again, peace and blessings to all my African people around the world. Let's do a roll call, as we always do. Let's do Nigeria, let's do Mali, let's do Zimbabwe, let's do who else can we do? Let's do Dominica. Let's do Puerto Rico. Let's do let's see, South Africa. Let's do Namibia. Let's do Libya. Let's do Morocco. Let's do Congo. Let's do Ivory Coast. Let's do Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania. I can keep going on and on and on and on about all kind of black people, different places. But this is the end of the video, so I'm gonna stop right there. But as always, peace and love, blessings, and I'm out.
So much the name, but I missed him anyway.